to go to determining quality then, how it actually works. So the recipe's difficulty will determine how hard it is to craft it at a higher quality. It will also change when you include optional reagents, which can modify it up or down depending on their effects and quality, sometimes significantly, like FF14.
Yeah.
There you go. It's just like FF. So here's like 2 examples.
Well, that's actually, I'll stop for a second and just say that kind of depends a little bit.
It depends on the
because,
minutiae.
Yeah, it's the minutiae of how it's balanced, because they could design this system so it is you literally cannot make the best stuff reliably and you have to rely on up to 90%, random chance or 10% random chance. That could be how it's balanced. Over in FF, generally speaking, it is your best crafting gear means you can HQ or whatever, anything you want with the right strategy approach. So it is a little bit of minutia for that. They could, but that's the thing where we don't know until we see this in the wild.
Yeah. There's a bit of me that just wonders like how many people are like vestigially here and they actually have no interest in,
most of them,
I guess, engaging in the game in any form of decent faith. But then Blizzard have also poisoned that by under-delivering so much for so long.
Yeah, I mean, because that's the thing. Fundamentally, did Michael overdose on copium before start of the stream? I don't see any reason to trust WoW devs, TBH. There is a little bit of that where you're like, okay, that is fair in the grand scheme of things because they've made some pretty poor decisions over time. But to not see what they're doing and go, okay, well, I understand that makes sense. That's how it's going to go. There's a little bit of like, pessimism isn't really super the answer, nor is complete optimism. It is very much address things how they are, see the truth of the matter, and then keep in mind the variance of this could be executed well, this could be executed poorly. The balance is off, but the actual execution of how this is considered and all of the design pillars and stuff they've talked about are all extremely solid. And it's almost like,
but Matt,
you see 90% of the product, you have to see the last 10%. The last 10% could be just a lump of turd, or it could be the rest of the 90% put together. And that's what we're looking at a decent portion of this made. We have
the
to go,
problem
okay,
is you just
will this
talked
be
about
fine?
those pillars.
Yeah.
But unlike the reactions,
Yeah.
you read this post in full and thought about it for time and then provided not takes, but opinion. Carefully considered opinion after having actually thought about it. So, you know what I mean? Right? Like,
yeah, a little bit.
So much, I don't know, so much just seems to be like reactionary. I guess I just try to like work out the headspace of like how people still hang around the game so much if they evidently hate it.
Well,
or like
there's
are
also,
kind of against Blizzard trying to do anything new. Or, try to make something like a bit more than it was in the past.
Yeah. I don't know.
I guess.
Yeah.
Which is like, that's the bit that I don't get. Like, I'm not saying pre-order.
No.
Like, we've consistently said don't pre-order.
Absolutely don't pre-order. Don't pre-order anything.
But I think it's okay to try to have like an actual, in-depth thought about like, about stuff instead of just, RNG bad. Looks like mobile game.
Yeah. Also,
fake trash.
Yeah. Also, one thing I think people don't really point out quite often enough, because the whole thing about like, being on, talking to people online, this is something I actually talked about yesterday, people on like, because I think it was Luke pointed out that like there's some people who are on Twitter and they will be like completely 100% earnest and they will talk as if like this is the town hall and we're having important debates. And then there will be people who do just drive by comments and just scream nonsense. And like, this is the world of the internet where you can have people who sit and go, I'm going to give this my full earnest. I'm going to be fully like dedicated to this and I'm going to be like present and engaged and what there was a word I'm looking for. I can't find it, but effectively, involved. And then there's other people who don't feel that need and are happy to go first thought, pew, there you go, happy enough.
I guess I just can't imagine living like that.
It's relevant enough, I think, but it's like we are fully aware that is how some comments come through here. Like, but
True,
we do try to engage earnestly because even when someone has a take, there's a quick take that may be right, maybe there's usually a nugget of truth or a nugget of emotional truth in everything people say.
I guess
I like to generally engage with it. That's what I do.
I will. But if you are a
yeah.
quick take person, at least to try to be aware that you will be completely, used and exploited your whole life by algorithms, politicians, etc., who, you know, kind of, they rely on the 3-word slogan.
Yeah.
They kind of, you know, they rely on the least thought, maximum emotion, fastest, easiest opinion to manipulate people.
Yeah, and
Right?
I guess I'll elaborate a little bit. I don't mean that that's always someone's approach. I don't mean that like there's people who they're just people who spend their entire lives going, I will contemplate everything I think and say deeply, and there are people who live life in the fast lane. I mean, it's like, because I do the same, where I am fully happy to sit here and, you know, think about stuff a lot and give a really as informative opinion as I possibly can. But then there are also times I go to certain parts of Twitter or certain parts of Reddit and I just think or post complete shit. Literally, first thought, I don't care. So people can live kind of both ways. It's like, I guess that's a thing where it's not necessarily just there. But yeah. Absolutely.
Actually, I love this from Mechanical Bias. What Matt spoke reminds me about the people who make the super in-depth video essays about why The Last Jedi is like a bad movie. I guess I would to put a pin in that. I'd say like talking about, and this is almost certainly what they mean.
Here we go.
Talking about like the structure of the movie, the pacing, you know, like all of that, like its actual ability to execute and its themes. Anyway, to continue Mechanical Bias's comment. Reminds them of the people who make the super in-depth video essays about why The Last Jedi is not a great movie, and then the top comment of their video is just, Admiral Holdo's got pink hair, go walk out broke.
Absolutely.
And it's like, all right, let's not talk about the structure of a movie. Let's not talk about the minutia, the craft. Nope, let's just have a reaction.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why reaction content does so well these days.
Because it's fun as shit. Do you ever try it? Do you ever just not thinking? Do you ever just see something and get really pissed off?
No.
And then just live in that moment and then go about your day? It's fucking great. It's wonderful.
No, unless it's modern Star Trek, no.
Honestly, I can see how people do. It's great. It's wonderful.
It's probably fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess
It is, yeah.
It's just like being drunk as fuck and kind of like
Yep.
losing your mind. Yeah. Which is like pretty fun when it happens. We've all
Yeah.
been there.
Yeah.
For the crafting skill, so it's determined by your base skill in the profession, right? So that's like the skill number you have in a profession like right now. But then it can be modified by a variety of factors, which means the quality of the reagents you use. So you might want to like hunt down the highest quality ore to make the highest quality craft. And then that of course means for the people who are gatherers, they get some high quality ore and it's like, oh, happy days. I got some good quality ore. I'm happy. Finishing reagents, profession gear with skill bonuses. So there's like a degree of, you know, like actually making a gear set for your crafter to be better at crafting. So that means that like for crafters, they have basically skill points, I think specialization points they're called, that they use after max level to like, I guess, get further progression. But also they have gear progression for their crafting in the same way that a DPS player wants to get a bigger sword so they can do a bigger dick DPS. Also, various bonuses provided by consumables, and most significantly, your profession specialization. So if you are trying to work towards like getting a really cool craft, you could, via the inspiration mechanic, basically crit the higher quality thing that you want. But as time goes on and you get more of the specialization points, you'll be able to extremely more reliably get the thing that you want because you've specialized into it. And here's the crafting UI. As you can see in the below image, your UI will make it clear based on all these factors what you can expect. So that's another nice little thing. I guess just putting the info kind of in your hands. So here's an example. Difficulty 325, crafting skill 292, resourcefulness 9%, inspiration 4%. So you'll make this at a tier 4. You're kind of almost there to make a tier 5, and I suppose maybe you could get some inspiration that will boost that up higher. But overall, you know, if they actually do their things right, you can level up enough that you can get that to be really good quality. So it's a sort of thing, and as with all of this, it could be a total fucking disaster.
Yeah,
It could be a total fucking disaster where, you know, stuff is stupid expensive and not enough people actually engage with crafting because turns out people didn't want to do that in WoW, and now there's a big shortage of crafters, and then that doesn't work because loads of people actually really want crafting, but there's not enough crafters, so then the prices go all loopy. And you know, you so like with any economy thing, this could be awful.
Yeah, there's
The point is more that like the design pillars they're going for at this stage and the things that they are trying to do are good in principle. We just need to see how they actually are in reality. And we can't exactly do that yet. And the thing that's going to be extremely challenging for Blizzard is they will have no realistic testing of this on alpha because it's not a real economy.
Yeah, that's the thing.
The issue.
The economy is the part that usually falls apart, and that's where they have to think about like what's the botting impact of this, and that's why I think the 927AH changes to go put all the commodities wide is probably a good move to stop that from getting a little bit too out of hand from different places and stuff like that. Maybe it'll just mean gathering's a bit dead because unless you hyper gamify gathering, which they haven't done in this update, maybe they'll try to do that in future to solve the botting problem because bots just. That's the thing. You can, as long as something's easy to do, bots will do it. As long as it's not too complicated. So it's like this is the crafting side of things. Of how do we make crafting less about how much money you have to buy things? And you can see they've worked with that with bot materials before, but this is the first time they've fully gamified it. And and it's like the principles are okay there. Some of the immediate problems in the high end of gearing. And the high end of stuff are defended against by virtue of the soulbound stuff, meaning it's kind of ties into the gear loop a little bit more than just a load of BOEs that kind of don't really matter too much. So it's interesting. I hope it turns out okay.
Look,
but
one way where this could combat it is that the more intricate the gathering is as a system, with the specializations and all of that.
Yeah.
Especially if they can ever add like a level of interactivity that could potentially confuse a bot.
Yeah.
Like those things will be like then weighted a little bit more towards players than just the system right now where it's like, it's completely equal for everybody, just that the bots can automate it. Right? It's like the more complexity there is, the more interaction, then the more that will be good for a player. So I suppose.
That also includes the more setup.
Yeah.
And more practice, because if you have just buy the boost, get your bot to run, that is... just makes it super easy to do.
And you could have a situation where like if the bots get squished, like if it takes actually a decent amount of time, effort, etc. to get your crafter like more leveled up and stuff, then you could have a situation where you'll have a just totally maxed out gatherer versus a fresh bot, and the maxed out gatherer maybe is getting more resources per gather, maybe higher quality resources, things that are actually more desirable in the desirable in the economy, whereas the bots won't get that. Then the bots, eventually level up, but then they can be caught in ban waves.
Yep.
So there is a chance, but who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows?
Sure.
As you craft your item, there is a small amount of randomness added to your skill roll to represent the natural variation in your crafting execution. In addition, if you have any inspiration, a new crafting stat, you have a chance to become inspired, gaining a significant amount of bonus skill during the craft. This means you may do better than you expected, but never worse. And there is an additional side to this with the other crafting stats, where you could actually build out your character kind of for the way that you want. They say in the end, your final crafting skill will be compared against the recipe difficulty. If that skill is higher than difficulty, you will craft it at maximum quality, otherwise it will depend where your skill falls. So if you have max quality, then that's it. That's great.
Perfect.
The inspiration and stuff for the crafting of gear, that is kind of how you're getting your way up to the top. And that'll be more important here because that is more of a journey. But perhaps, maybe if you get inspiration when you're crafting a tier 3 potion, maybe you get more potions. I don't know. We'll have to see. Now, on the topic of the additional crafting stats. So these are secondary stats that impact your crafting skill. And then you can specialize and gear towards these. So you can get these, I suppose, via your spec, your crafting things spec, but then also your crafting gear. So you'll have 2 sets of gear, your regular one for your character and then your crafting one. And I believe they said in the past that the UI handles all that, so you don't have to chop and change them in any sort of frustrating way. So, inspiration, which is basically just critical strike. Resourcefulness. You have a percentage chance to use fewer tradable reagents such as ore. So you could use this and maybe squeeze every ounce of profit out of your craft, make your materials go a bit further. Multi-craft. You have a chance to craft additional items, only works for recipes with stackable items. So maybe, do you remember the alchemy was it the potion spec or whatever in Wrath of the Lich King in TBC.
I remember that all too well because I never had any luck with any time I ever tried to craft anything. And then my friend was actually just procking thousands of gold in free flasks all day long because luck was on his side.
Yeah. And then there's crafting speed, which just means crafting is faster. So if you're mass producing. And there's something there who said scrap crafting speed, multi-craft is the same thing but better. Depends on how things are. And I do know there are people who are like big goblins. Yeah, and they'll just have a character have 25 minutes of crafting. And that'll just be the bar going for 25 minutes.
Yeah.
So, we'll see.